Hi everyone, Aimel here is back with more of the nonsense that is the history of Aimel. After a little while, of course. Yeah, not grinding them, just doing them for fun, and back once again. But this time I did something pretty special. Like instead of just being like deciding what I want to record, I did for the first time did a community post on YouTube to ask which what would people want to see like first before anything else. So I tried on, get a few choice, and of course I did all of this today as well. So I'm recording like a few hours after I posted the one I did. So of course, not something that I expect to just, blow, but just to see the few people that did look at it. It was curious to see. And they wanted me to talk about uh, how I do my builds. At least, what is the thought process of why I'm bringing this, why I'm bringing that. So, yeah, I'm gonna demonstrate an example of how I do it. Of course, it can be very different at times, but I decided to illustrate one that is pretty recent. So just to have the general idea, of course. So I'm gonna show what I did, like all the prep I did to when I did to prep for week one of BBR, one was versus Pepsis. Of course, at the time we're recording that we definitely played and uploaded the battle a while ago, so there's of course no worry about it. About like anything of being like revealing anything that I shouldn't have. And yeah, like I said, it's I did it pretty recently, so I thought it would be pretty ideal to show how I do it. I I mean, there will gonna be certain part that's not gonna be anything special. It's gonna come down to what the reasoning of what the plan and everything. So without further ado, so here's I think you also see that like as a team building or rather a late team building, if you can consider it like this, but sure. Yeah. So for websites, of course, the first thing that any person do, they look at the opponent's team and they check what could be the biggest threat, of course. So here, as we can see, we have as at least for the top sets, we have Urshifu, Single Strike, Gold Tango, Azumero, Greninja, Thunderous, that in our rules of VBO was able to be Terra Ice of Flying, Donphan, and Dragalge, Chestnut, Cresselia, and Wigglytuff. And then out of them, I analyze those that are the biggest threats. So of course, the priority is the top threat of the opponent. So in this case, it will be Urshifu, Goldango, and Thunderous. Because Urshifu hits super hard, Goldego has incredible typing and ability, and Thunderous is fast, is strong, and is the Terra user. So of course I'm gonna make my team being built around to make sure those at least those three in priority doesn't go wild on me. Of course. Then for to make it happen, I need to check what Pokemon I have to make sure they don't do it. So, for instance, if you remember from why Brawl versus Pepsis, I had Tinglu, I had Screamtail, and of course, just to make things easier for me, I'm gonna complete the roster of what I did earlier so that I don't have to think of what I did. Volcanion, the Zapdos, and then of course the Moltres. Alright, so that's also something I mean, we're in the topic about. Like, I always think of what these tournament Pokemon I have first that are good, and then if I see that someone is either replaceable, or that I see that one of me my lower budget can bring something worth on the table, I can see what I can drop in favor of. But if I think that either the niche they fill isn't good enough, or just I have other Pokemon that do better, then of course I'm just gonna go for those that would do better. Unless, of course, I'm throwing, I just want to use the funny Pokemon, which is pretty much 70% of the time I do a build. But now I'm talking about serious build. Like, not just serious, or like just not only just full trial, but like really, how can I make the full potential of the Pokemon, of course? And don't worry, those guys will came one day. One day. But of course, I don't just focus on everything. I look at really throughout everyone and see what they're worth. Like I was like say last 3 year, like I could see a world where you could just like brawl it out versus like Pokemon like Chess I don't know Chestnut, Thunder, Screen Ninja, Donphan. But on the other end, I try to look how much out of it I can get. Like if my Glacier won't be able to go far because it's an Azumarill or a Goldengo, I might not want to bring it. Cyclo- Cyclozar might be able to quote on I mean, take an electric hit from Thunderous, but if it's a then Terra, then I'll just take too much. Also, if it's Thunder Wave, then my Cyclozar is ruined. So if a Pokemon doesn't do enough for me, yeah, also that Golden Goal is a Trump Zone, so I might not even want to bring it. And for and Pharaohs was actually kind of close to be brought because Dolphin was his ground type, which doesn't have the greatest special defense. Also was pretty good against Thunderous. And it was pretty much just Dragalge and Cresselia that can take his hits better, but be able to just be able to spread paralysis potentially was also big. So it was close to make it, which I thought about it, but I ended up not using it because the other Pokemon I had were able to do a lot more than what Ampharos did, mainly because of its speed tier. Like only Tinglu has the bad speed tier here. Like maybe also Volcanions, but beside that, the rest were just good speed tier to have versus my opponent. Salzbach, I tried to do some funny calcs with it, but then again, the problem with the Goldengo and the Thunderous, I'll try to make a Salzbach for it one day, we'll see. And then Articuno, I saw Goldengo, I saw, I don't know, Cresselia. So, and then I look, of course, at the top six, then I saw that they were all really very good here. So I decided to mainly focus on them and then just see later if a swap can be thought about it. So of course, then it comes down to what I want to bring. So back our example of saying that Goldengo and Thunderous are a huge threat. Of course, I wanted Tinglu to be super bulky, capable of taking their hits, like bringing like usual moves and everything of a Tinglu can do. Of course, and then because they are mostly special attackers, I mainly focus on special defense since Tinglu's physical defense is already good. Then when like say I have like a full team completed, I just ignore that it's all empty. Just think that I have a team completely filled out. What I do next is, of course, then I bring a team that what my opponent could be likely to bring versus me. So of course I bring the most troublesome Pokemon for me to face up. So let's say it was those guys, then it was this guy that I tested with, then after that it was, if I remember, it was, yep, the Dolphin. And I remember I also tested in the, wait, so of course, I test which Pokemon are the strongest against me offensively. Those that have the better matchup defensively against my own threat, which is the case for Wigglytuff because I have Spectrier. And of course, seeing those Pokemon that have multiple points of entry versus me, when they do, what can they do versus me? So let's just say like a Tingle again. Yeah, I'm able to go into Goldengo on Thunderous. But even assuming that they do anything but doesn't switch out, and then my opponent has to switch out himself. I look what is my likely switch out, and for them it will be Dom Fan, most likely, because versus Tingle, he has a good defense, he can spin away the hazard that Tingle can set up. He also just threaten anything with a knockoff. So then when I realized that that Dom Fan, every time it comes in it can be very annoying for me. because if I set up hazards, Dolphin just remove them, so it might not be my worth my time to set them up because even though I have a ghost type, I don't want to take unnecessary damage on one of my best Pokemon. So that's when I try to swap up things, like something that can still make its job versus the main Pokemon I want to check, while making sure to adapt versus the Pokemon that I fear that will do too much to me. So in the case of Tinglu, it be, as like Solvers was good, I tried it in a Solvest variant to focus more on like survivability. Like no leftovers was bad, but the Solvest allowed me to take hits from Golden Goal and Special Thunders way better. And also, I don't have to like. There was also a time, like I said, when I'm prepping for like Rosette, was like a nasty plot Thunderous with Terra Bolas, say Terra Ice, because I thought it was super effective as a Stingle, of course. And it was doing too much damage. And there was a time where what in my all my mods I did, Thunderous didn't go wild, but Tingu was usually brought like to the red. Like it won the exchange, but it wasn't able to do much after that. So then I tried like another variant with the assault vet and say I think my last move was throat chop. Like I don't remember on the match. I know that those three moves. Then it was something else. And with that, I was able to check Thunderous way better because now I could just devour those even nasty plug boosted Terrablast eyes. Wasn't even cracking half with Speed F Assault Vest, which is pretty crazy. And then the rest, of course, as long as I was able to work with the rest, of course, the assault vests help because since I'm not focusing on setting up hazard because Dunfin can remove them, it was a worthwhile trade-off. Makes me better against Goldengo, and of course, I have the pairing with Screamtail for the wish passing, of course. One of his biggest threat Urshifu is Poison Root to Fairy, so of course we go attacking move, despite our low attacking nature. And then of course the rest is pretty standard, so like Protect, I knew that Goldengo could just be a free switching to Screen Tail, which is very annoying. Like, having Flamethrower won't be enough, I won't do enough damage, so I just pack all into utility to make sure the next Pokemon that can switch in can take on Goldengo, so either Wish Passing or setting up a light screen. Not because it's a screen that will, be extended, but just a screen to make sure the switching into the Goldengo can help, especially since Tingu is supposed to brawl with Thunderous as well, making it take less damage is for the better. And then I made it fast enough for for your Shifu, of course, because one of Screamtail's strength is its speed. Like it'll take the hit just fine, then it'll be able to use its utility first, which is something very good about a support Pokemon. Because normally fairy types are usually just all about bulk and no speed, who can get overwhelmed because they have to act second. Screamtail is lucky to act first, so it can get its support going. It's what I like about it. After I look at how good my defense does, now I have to get my offense going, of course. So I look at Spectrier. I look that Wigglytuff can be kinda annoying versus me. I say kinda because we know Wigglytuff is not a great Pokemon anyway, but I test with it because people when they see low tier value that can have defensive value, they can go for it. So it's something that we can have to take on about. So I first go with a bulky, nasty plot taunt set with the idea that I can still get my offense going because I'm boosting myself up while making his defensive Pokemon worthless against me. They'll probably just be the lack of Lumberry, Coverberry on it just for safety measure versus other stuff. Of course, I put enough speed for what I want to outspeed. I think in this case it was Thunderous. Well, actually, it was Greninja, actually. So it will be something like this. Then I put the rest remaining in my bulk. So not something like this, but something close to it. Then of course I check what if there's another Pokemon that could fulfill the role of the Spectre check. So then I started to, of course, test which is against other Pokemon. In this case, it will be Dragalge over really tough, which has the advantage of taking Spectre's hit, okay, but being better offensively, and also has a better matchup against one of my other Pokemon in Volcanion. So I started to account for it. Then it's a matter of just adapting in the end. Like if I think that I don't necessarily need to be defensive to be able to beat his Pokemon. I can just go more on the offense and like starting to add better move into me. So something like this, as you can see, if I really don't fear it, like if I know it's a Pokemon that is really not that great, that I know I can overwhelm. This is a trade I can afford to do. Then of course there's next to Volcanion that I look at his team and I offensively was of course very good. So like, the standard Volcanion that you expect. I knew his best Pokemon versus it is of course Dragalge. So I want a move to specifically hit Dragalge the hardest it can. Uh, what move I left after that? I think it was like Such Bomb. I think it was something. I don't know what fourth move. I don't remember what it was. But then of course I just built it to make sure it's just as strong and it's capable to take a certain hit versus a certain opponent. So like something like this. Then after that, it's just more solidifying the team. Like once I know those are good, I look of course for more things that are good. I don't think I'm not really explaining well, or just it seems very standard. But again, I'm not doing any script. I'm just trying to explain right off the bat. So just bear with it. Then of course, then the Zapdos, Close Combat, the Brave Bird, the Tantrum to hit the Goldengo, and then U-turn because Draft League player clicks U-turn. Something standard like this. And then we'll want to say this. Terra Bless Rest U-turn because this is the set I brought. Pepsis. Come on, give me the Chesto. Like this. Terra Poison. Let it be. Some speed for Goldengo. Resist PDF. And bam! So that's a team. Also with the boots. And bam! That's a team. That's the first version that I think is good, and this is the part where I really start testing versus what I fear to see the most. So say Scarf Yoshifu with Wicked Blow to get the jump on Horse and just do big damage. Say a Goldengo I can just that does decent damage but can stay healthy because I have some Pokemon say like this. Then of course the Thunderous that is pretty strong, like this. Then Greninja, I check for what I can do. Like I just check. At first, I start against standard sets. That's something that is pretty normal to run because it's the norm. So say I don't know, Spec Battle Bond, Hydro Dark Balls, and what have it. Then defensive Dolphin, Quake, Spin, Cuff, Rocks, just your average Dolphin, and then just Death with say Toxic, uh, Stab, and say just fourth move in case of like something stupid that he doesn't want to face. So yeah, something standards. Just imagine this is all standard, like this. Then I test it, like I try it. It's normally, yeah, of course. Yeah, I do ask my friend to test, but the way I do that is I build the mock, I give it to them, then we test. And the idea is just that I have the mental. I just want the mentality of someone else playing over me because if it's not one of my friends that is playing, then I'm playing with myself. Like I just go into an alternative account with my main, and then I just challenge it, my actual team versus the mock I built for myself. And then of course I play like I don't know absolutely nothing, and I go from here. It's actually better than one could think of. It gets the job done. It's not the worst thing. And yeah, so basically after that I check what went wrong in the first place, what could have been different. Like if there was a set that could have helped me more over what I brought originally. And of course I tested with more and more and more different set and approach and team style. until I figure out a team that is basically very good neutrally in the matchup versus pretty much anything. And then after that, I start doing some tweaks on the team. So say something like this when I see like a different approach, like starting to do a new plan, like saying that like screen tail is supposed to be on your Shifu, but if your Shifu is too hard, screen tail might go down too easily early. Like I know I need because I need screen tail LT, but if go Dago is there, I'll just get exploited. So I try to get a way around it to not have just one soul Pokemon for a certain for one of his threats. So in the case of Yoshifu, I knew that Zapdos is able to resist its stab, and every time as I brought it, it was versus a weakened team. So I went to the mentality of Zapdos doesn't need an entire investment in attack because every time it came in, it was versus something that is weakened, and even with no attack, the chosen was clear enough. So I went with a different approach of making it more bulky as a way to get more information and more opportunity to attack. So now I was just not just on the switch, but even I guess something as strong as Yoshifu that I can switch my Zadosen or versus Dumbfan if I predict Rock, or even Dragalge because I get more bulk out of it, which is of course nice. Like to get more opportunity to attack, having the bulk to take a certain move better and then be able to retaliate back hard. So so that's pretty much how I do naturally. But of course, people know me to be the funny man, to be the bizarre man. So let's say that we have indeed brought one of the funny ones instead. Well, of course, I would test with a Pokemon that performed the least better out of my team. I would drop it and see one other Pokemon could have done better. So in this case, say Ampharos. I look at what could have been Ampharos' strength in the matchup. So say Discharge, Dragon Pulse, so we can hit Dragalge and Donphan. And then what other move I can think of? Say Volt Switch and I don't know, Dragon Tail because it has the move. Then of course I'm going to do the classic EV spread. So let's say something like this. Give me bold. Then of course I would test it. If it did enough to justify dropping one of my Bettermon and was able to perform nicely, I would think of keeping it, of course. And if it didn't, I would just drop it as a whole, like this. But what about when I do a funny set? How do I think about doing a funny set? Well, now I have to do just like a whole different matchup just to show like because that versus websites I didn't bring anything funny. So I should also just thought about this matchup alone. So I pretty much had to think about a new matchup just right now to demonstrate another example. But I think I know the one perfect example for this. So give me 1 second. Of course, no editing because this is just who I am. So how about we take an example from the previous season of the BBR, if you remember correctly. And if you know me, I think you know which matchup I am gonna talk about. If I can remember everything that I've brought versus them. Yeah, I had you, I had you, I had you, you. I know I have a certain Pokemon now, but I don't want to reveal it now in case they don't figure it out. What was the other one? What was the other Pokemon? I don't remember who it was. I don't even want to bring. Remember? Oh yeah, it was this guy. And then of course, yeah, I think you guys really know where I'm going. I think you know where I really am going. So there, the roaring moon. Yep, 1 second. Yeah, he had Among Us. He also had Arcanine. Then he had the horse responsible for the lateness of Pokemon Home. He had the submissive and breedable Pokemon. And then he had what? Again, no cut because why not? Yeah, the Hazard, the Wish Passer, and then of course the Terra Captain, of course. Leave. So s- this is what, he, yeah. So this was just Dell for week 3 of BBR last season. So how come this made me think of bringing Lechonk in the first place? Because if you remember, in the title, I didn't. It wasn't as a joke. I brought Lechonk because I saw something in it and I thought it was worth bringing. So what did I saw that Lechonk can do over anything else? Because if it wasn't for Lechonk, it probably something about something else, say Baldi and Tauros or Water, because this is what I have. Because if you exclude Amungus, it does look pretty strong on papers. So what happened for me to drop a whole Tauros for Lechonk? Well, I'll tell you what happened. That I was building, and I considered those 5 to be, perfect enough for the matchup. Then, like I said of earlier, I looked over what could be the 6 Pokemon. Like I said, I thought about Tauros, which was pretty strong, pretty good Roaring Moon check, but was pretty annoying versus Amoonguss. And of course, I wanted as little opportunity for Amoonguss to arrive versus me, because I already have Florges, but at least can button pass out or bring a wish. Thus Cruel was able to sell off Hazard versus a team that only had Cryogonal as a remover. And of course, I had Scizor and Dragonite. So what made me tell to use a Lechonk as the 6 over Tauros? There was a few things that convinced me over it. Because if you remember, it was Eviolite, whatever ability, say Thick Fat. I think it was a moveset of Playoff, Endeavor, Yawn, and Substitute. Well, when I was doing some calc, I saw that Lechonk, I don't remember what was the exact build. I think, yeah, I know it was like a max defense at least. Then like enough attack to one hit KO. Roaring Moon get with some defense investment after a spike. So I put enough for this. Then put the rest into the rest of my bulk, and that was pretty much it. I saw that Lechonk was able to KO Roaring Moon, and that Endeavor and Yawn were also pretty strong move here, despite the low stats. And yeah, after that it was just basically the surprise factor of a Lechonk. Like, sure, maybe you could see like Focus Sash Endeavor, but would you really think of max defense if you're like play rough? That was something pretty surprising I wanted to, build my team around. Like something that could like either bait in Roaring Moon or force me out with Roaring Moon, so that I could bring the Lechonk and get the surprise going. Well, of course, I didn't just. If it's just one Pokemon that can do one specific thing, it wouldn't be worth in a matchup. But because I also have Yawn and Endeavor plus Hazard support, which are 2 moves that are very strong to force switches, I thought and saw that it was actually pretty worth it. Like, not even as a joke. Like there was a time I was able to take a hit from Vaporeon testing my boy. I was able to yawn it to ensure it couldn't go any further, or even endeavor it because I would be brought to low HP. And of course, substitute for the last move because since the chunk force switches, and if I have enough HP, I can make then more switches and make my endeavor more powerful. Sorry if you hear my dog; he's very loud. He's a very loud boy. And yeah, with all the tests, the chunk never went wrong, so I consider it as a valuable member of the team. And then of course the rest was to match up the rest, of course. So I guess also another worth mentioning thing to say would be like with Dragonite, which normally you think of it as the multi-scale Dragon Dancer, but because he had Arcanine and Muzdale and Vaporeon and Amoonguss, I thought that the offensive Dragonite would need too much to break, especially because I'm bringing Toad Cruel and Florges. It has an Arcanine for Scizor. So again, just more testing, and then realized that Yeah, he has good things to stop Dragonite offensively, but doesn't have much to handle a defensive Dragonite. Because that way, having a strong Pokemon be able to just stay on the field for so long actually was able to make more happening than what a Dragon Dance moveset would have done. Like because I had longevity and bulk, I was able to bring my Dragonite multiple times, keep it healthy, do a lot of damage, which was more helpful than a Dragonite that can just like came like once, and if it fails, then it's just boom and doom. So yeah, I think this is a good thing to. It would be good to round it up. Like just, I think those are like two good example. Like good example of like just something standard with the likes of what happened week 1, which is very recent. Then of course an example of something very unusual of why I think it's worth bringing on the table. So the point is instead that if I have a Pokemon that really contributes for something on the team, even if it's unusual, I can see myself bringing it. So that's the reason why people, my friends said, like during like draft analysis or anything that Aimel you really have to process everything because you can be the unlucky guy that gets swept by Lechonk or something. So yeah, so that was a pretty simple video to make for me. I hope that it will help you understand a bit more about myself. And I will just end here because there's nothing else to say besides that. What do you guys want me to talk about next? I don't know if I want this to do it soon after this or if I want to do it weeks after. We'll see. I'll look at what you guys say. I will be more than happy to talk about more stuff. And yeah, so I will talk you guys for more Amol and sharing his knowledge or craziness for another time. See ya.